you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Hello, Splinterlands fans! Today has been a huge day as we finally have the land white paper for Splinterlands. This is going to give us a lot more details about how land is going to be used and will finally allow us to prepare for the first big phase of land. So this is a very large white paper. It took them quite a while to put together. Land is going to be very, very in depth. So a lot of people are getting overwhelmed looking at this. I'm here to kind of break this down, pick out the key aspects, and I'm going to try to go over this in a fairly simple way. There's still a lot to go over, but I'm not gonna get bogged down too much in specific details and things. I'm just going to kind of go through a base overview and tell you guys what is coming in land. So let's start at the very beginning, where we're actually already at. And this first phase I'm going to go through very quickly because most of it we essentially already know about. Land deeds are what we already have. If you go to the land market and buy just a regular plot, regular tract, whatever the case is, this is what you get. It gives you no information about the type of land you have, where it's located, anything like that. You just have a deed that you can eventually turn into lands. When you claim your land, which you can already do, that's the kind of the furthest along we are right now. You can claim your land. That tells you where the land is located. So that's what claiming is. It just tells you where it's at. Next up is surveying. This is coming in approximately 2 weeks. It's going to be very, very soon. This is the next thing that is coming out. You'll be able to survey your land and you will find out what terrain type it is. We'll see more about that here in a little bit. It'll tell you what the rarity is. That'll give you a special production bonus. We'll see more about that here in a little bit. And it will also tell you your resource type. Most are going to be natural. That's kind of the basic land type. Then there's magical or occupied. Those will give you special bonuses, which again, we will talk about coming up. There's a lot to talk about here. It will also tell you if you happen to hit the jackpot and get a castle or a keep. There is one of those buildings per tract. A tract is 100 plots. There are 9 keeps and 1 castle per region. A region is 10 tracts or 1,000 plots. With these, there is exactly that amount. We know once everything is surveyed, I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where everything is surveyed, but if we theoretically get there, we already know exactly how many keeps and castles there will be. There is a specific amount. We just don't know where they are located. So if you happen to the jackpot, you'll get one of these. And those are special buildings, which again, we will get to here very soon. So starter packages. This was something that was in the DAO Vault. We know a little bit about it, but there have been a few changes now that we see more details about what's going on. Building in a box is going to cover the resources to produce your first building. So this will only be applicable in phase 2. So there's no building construction yet in phase 1.5. But what you will get right away is the free power source. So the power source, it costs 5k DEC. And all of these starter packages cost 10k DEC. So you're getting half your money there back just by buying, or just in the power source, because everybody is going to want a power source. It's required unless you have a Rooney. We'll talk about Roonies more, but for most of them, it's going to be required. And even if you have a Rooney, you're still going to want a power source. So there's gonna be a lot of DEC burned here, but this will probably be fairly solid value here. You won't really get that value until phase 2. The time vault is going to be important and going to be a really good deal if you want to start your production right away. The time vault gives you time crystals, which will speed up land production, and then it gives you grain tokens, 15k grain tokens. And if you are buying grain from the game, that's going to be 15. So here, yeah, which means that so it's telling you 15,000 DEC here. It's also 15,000 DEC worth of grain. So that is an insane value, as it talks about. Sorry, I'm kind of skipping down. 30k is the estimated value, and you're only paying 10k DEC for it, and you can use DECB, so you can get another discount there. But this, if you are buying the grain at the very beginning, you'll actually overpay for it if you're buying it directly from the game. Eventually, you're going to want to buy that from other players for cheaper. But if you're just starting off, nobody's farmed any grain, right? So everybody has to buy it from the game. If you want to start off playing right away, getting your land, working on your land right away, this to me is kind of a must-have package. This is a great value. So it just depends on how aggressive you want to be at the beginning and getting off to that head start. Unstable Totem, that's going to give you a temporary production boost that lasts for 30 days. This does not apply until phase 2. So this is another one where I think it's going to have really good value, but you're not going to see that value until phase 2, which is a ways down the line. So that and you have to make the decision when you survey your land whether you want it or not. So, okay, all right, let's move on to what we've really all been waiting for. Talking about the staking cards, how much DEC are we going to need? How much are these cards going to? How much value are these cards going to have on land? How much will you need? What's the different values between the card types? So you're going to be, in order to produce on your land, you'll need to stake cards to the land. There is a 3-day cooldown for staking cards. You have to lock it in for 3 days. Once you remove a card from land, it takes 3 days for it to essentially stop, or for you to get it back so you can sell it, so you can play it in the game. You can't play them in the game and stake them in the land at the same time. If you want to do anything else with your cards, you have to wait until 3 days after you take it off of your lands. So we'll get, when we get to production points, it'll tell you the exact bonuses for the cards. We'll just kind of go in order here. Power source. I talked about power source. You need to burn 5k DEC in order to get a power source to work your lands. So the only exception is if you have a Rooney, and like I said, even if you have a Rooney, you still want one of these power sources. So everybody essentially needs to burn 5k DEC in order to start using their land. So if we do some math here, that's if all of the land gets utilized and put to work at any point in time, that's 750 million DEC we're gonna burn. That is a lot of DEC. Right now we have about 6 billion DEC that's out there, and most of that's not liquid. You have a lot of that tied up in various places. We're going to go through a lot of DEC. Speaking of DEC, you also need to stake DEC. With the power sources, you burn it. That DEC is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. To use cards on your land, you have to stake an appropriate amount of DEC. When you're staking it, you're not spending it. You can take that back at any point. There's actually no cooldown on it. You can pull it back whenever you want, but it has to be locked in the game in order for those cards to be doing any work. That amount is 10k DEC per max level card. There are 5 slots to put cards. So if you want to put 5 max level cards on your land, you need to stake 50k DEC to your lands. Maybe 60k DEC once we throw in a Rooney. Again, we'll get to Rooney here later on. That's going to tie up a lot more DEC. Again, it's not going to burn the DEC, but it's going to tie it up so it's not on the market. If all 150, so if we took the 150,000 plots that we have, and again, not all of them are going to be in use. Some of them will be on the market. Some of them, whatever the case is, people will hold on to them for whatever reason. Or maybe they just don't have the cards to put on there, so they're not using all of the DEC. But just in theory, if all of the land was used, that would require 7.5 billion DEC to operate all the land in existence. 7.5 billion. We have about 6 billion DEC out there. There is not enough DEC right now to operate all of the land. That is kind of the point of a lot of this, because that's going to drive DEC back to peg as people need to start to buy those. And then to get more DEC, what do you have to do? You have to go burn SPS. So this is where the value of SPS comes in. We have to start burning SPS in order to mint more DEC to even have enough DEC to operate this land. That is the flywheel, a key component that has a lot of people excited about this land, even if they don't have any land themselves. This is going to change the economy so much. So if you don't have enough, and that's per max level card, if you have a card that has half the max BCX, then you need half the DEC staked in order to be able to actually utilize that. So, all right, let's go on to the production points. which cards are best, what are the bonuses for gold foil, older cards, whatever the case is. So they are using something called production points. Production points simply going to measure how effective your cards are going to be at whatever they are doing, whether it's farming, whether it's clearing land. We'll get into some of these other things in a second. How well do they produce? So here's the first thing right here. We have rarities and gold level cards, which is huge. So for just your regular foil cards, there's a little bit of a difference between legendary and common, but it's not huge. Legendary cards get 1.5 times more production. But when we go over to, look over here at gold. Oh, max gold foil legendary will give you 10,000 production points. Common only 2,000. So there's a big difference when we get over here. If you wanna get the most possible value out of land, these gold foil legendary cards are money, absolutely money. And then you also get a bonus based on how old the cards are. Alpha cards get a 10 times multiplier, a 10x multiplier over your Chaos era cards. Beta gets 5 times, and it doesn't matter which edition it is. They all have the same. I kind of thought maybe the promo cards might get a little bit more of a bonus. Untamed get 2x bonus, and then your Chaos cards are going to, they'll just be your base. All right. So it tells you the details will be provided on each card in game. Now, one of the biggest of things that surprises me, a bonus we do not see in here. We've actually still got some more bonuses that are coming, but I'll give you guys a spoiler. None of the bonuses are for summoners. That's a lot of people are excited over this white paper, myself included. Well, I think the one thing that has made a lot of people angry is that there is no bonus for summoners. Early on, for the longest time, they said it's your land's going to need 1 summoner and 5 monsters, or maybe it was 5 slots and one of them was a summoner requirement. And we were told very clearly that was all subject to change, but multiple times the team said you're going to want summoners for land. Summoners are going to be great for land. And now there is no summoner bonus for land. And I think one of the reasons they said is that there's just not enough summoners in the game. If we give a summoner bonus for land, there's not going to be any summoners to play with. My thought is good. But they didn't want that. So anyways, well, I don't want to make this too much about my opinion. So let's keep going on here. I just wanted to point that out. That's something that was very interesting. That was missing. So anyways, the terrain preferences we talked about at the beginning. When you survey land, it'll tell you what type of terrain it is. There is a big part of that. This is going to be a very important chart down the line. You get bonuses or penalties for putting certain cards on certain types of lands. Scroll over, you can see there's dragon here. You'll notice there's fire, water, life, death, earth, dragon. There is no neutral. Now the penalties are huge, 50%. Some of them are only 10%, but the bonuses are 5 or 10%. So the bonuses are fairly small, but significant. But one thing that's interesting is there is no neutral bonus or penalty. So neutral cards get the same production points regardless of what type of terrain that they're put on, and that's probably a disadvantage because you can't put them anywhere that gives them a bonus. Anyways, just an interesting point. All right, production boost. Let's go to some more production boost. Land rarity. By the way, all of these production boosts are going to be additive. So if you get a 40% production boost from rarity and you get a 100% boost from Rooney, we'll see that's the boost for Rooney. It becomes a 140% boost. They don't multiply. They get added together. So anyways, land rarity, you can hear, we finally know the odds of actually, I think we already knew the odds, but we finally know the production boost. Legendary is going to give a 100% production boost. I honestly thought it might be more. A lot of people were speculating that legendary would be really valuable and the commons wouldn't be worth all that much. There's not, I mean, yes, 100% is a very significant bonus. But remember, you also add all these bonuses together. So if you end up with a 300% bonus, well, a common would have given you a 200% bonus instead of a 300% bonus. So it's not really doubling if you're getting a lot of other bonuses in there as well. So common land is still going to be fairly valuable. Obviously, yes, we want those legendaries, we want those epic lands, but common's not left out. Like, it's a lot of people thought those were just not going to be worth all that much. You can still get some good returns out of common. Magical and occupied land. So there are going to be special resource types you can earn in future phases, but there's not going to be any magical resources or any essences available in phase 1.5. You simply get a production boost. So if you pull out one of those magical resources or an occupied plot, you get a 100% boost, and they're going to mine different, they're going to mine different things here. We've got the Secret of Pretoria resource. That's going to be kind of interesting. We'll see that. SPS mining. So, but right now it's basically about this production boost here, and that's pretty significant. That's a pretty large boost. So if you pull one of those, that is nice, especially if you pull a legendary, occupied, or magical resource. Okay, on to Rooney. Rooney are a huge thing right now. The floor price of Rooney jumped from 0.3 to 0.5 ETH today. It has skyrocketed because Rooney have some monster boost. First off, they provide 100% boost to the entire plot. Like the entire plot. They count as just a base legendary card. Then they give you a 100% boost for the entire plot. They also act as a power source. So you do not need a power source, but if you have a power source, plots that have both a power source and a Rooney will be able to have an extra worker card for a max of 6 instead of 5. So the Rooney is like an additional free worker. I say free, like he gets his own slot. So I would say you do still want the power source and the Rooney. If you got a Rooney, you should pay 5K for the power source. So yeah, that's going to give you an extra slot, which is going to give you a lot more points, and then you get to add a 100% boost to those points. Then if you combine Roonies together, you can combine up to 5 Roonies to increase the amount of PPs those Rooney earn. Now the bonus stays the same. The 100% bonus doesn't go up, but you can get more production points from that individual Rooney if you combine them together. Another interesting thing, we thought that the rarity of the Rooney was going to make a difference, like if you had rarer attributes. That is not the case. All of the Roonies will perform exactly the same, at least in 1.5. So then Roonies also give you a bonus of finding totem fragments. So totem fragments are going to give additional bonuses to lands. So there's also going to be title bonuses. If you put titles on your lands, you can get a boost. Different titles have different rarities. So based on how hard they were to obtain, you can see the quantities here of those. You can get up to a 50% boost. So those titles now have some value. Totems. If you have a totem, you can get some more boost, and you will be able to find totems out while working your land. So totems can be a boost there as well. If you want to see some example calculations, if all that's a little confusing, you want to break down with some more calculations, come in here, you can see the calculations. But the big thing I mentioned is they are additive. They do not multiply together. So that's one thing to factor in. Okay. So you've got your power source. You've got your DEC staked to your land. You've got some cards to go work the land. What can they actually do? They can. Okay, actually, I'm jumping ahead. Yeah, I was looking at a farming food. Why do we need a farm food? Let's talk about why we need a farm food first before we talk about how we farm it. You need food to maintain your workers. Your workers will eat up food because, I mean, they gotta have their nutrition, right? So that's the big thing. Grain is going to be produced so that it can feed workers. If you don't have enough grain, you're not going to get all of the full returns on your land. So then before you can do anything at all, you have to clear plots before any buildings are built, before you can start producing that food. Because we mentioned at the beginning that you need this grain, right? To feed your workers. To get the grain, you can work on the land. But before you can even start working on the land at all, you have to clear your land. That's why I mentioned if we come up here back to these starter packages, this one right here, where you start with grain tokens to go ahead and start feeding your workers, is going to be a very, very good value, because you have to clear your plot first. But here, based on the type of land you have, it takes so many production points to clear your lands. Then once you clear your land, you can start working on it, okay? What can you do working on it? You can farm 3 different things. First, you can farm grain. I guess that's just called farming in general. I say there's gonna be farming, mining, research. You can farm grain. Grain is produced at a flat amount per hour. Workers will consume grain while they are farming grain, so keep that in mind. But that essentially what you're doing is you are farming grain to feed your workers or to sell to other people who need to buy grain because they are doing other types of farming and need that grain to sustain their workers. So it breaks down exactly how much grain you can farm and consume and all of that stuff. Again, I don't think we need to go through the details. We're just giving an overview here. The other thing you can do is mine. So right now, if you hold land, you are getting daily SPS that you can go claim. Once phase 1.5 comes out, that stops. Now, if you want SPS, you have to go mine it, and you can use your workers to mine SPS. That same amount of SPS will be airdropped to all the players mining SPS based on the percentage of production they have towards mining that SPS. So if you want to continue to earn from your pool, you need to come in here and mine SPS. This is where, what do? Do you farm grain? If you spend all your time farming grain, you don't get anything. You don't get any SPS anymore, but you can sell that grain to those who are mining SPS and make your profit that way. Or the third thing, you can come over here and research the secret of Pretoria. So what is this? What is the secret of Pretoria? We do not know, but all of the research you do is going to carry over to phase 2. And eventually, when this is revealed, your rewards will be based on the amount of research that you did. So we do not know what the benefits. It says, will provide huge benefits, likely the airdrops, as well as ongoing benefits to those who contribute to the project. So we do not know necessarily what it is. So you can get some prefix titles in here as well. We'll see that. But we don't know exactly what it is. I'll give my own speculation here for a second. And I'm just getting back. I haven't really had the time to discuss this with a lot of people and see what other predictions are. But we know that the main purpose of land, the whole point of all of this, the whole goal that we are trying to produce items and spell cards to go play in the game. Eventually, those are going to be added into the game. It's going to be a whole new phase of gameplay, a second phase of gameplay. And those cards are going to be produced by land. They're not going to be sold in packs like your chaos cards. They're going to be produced via land. Is this the items and spell cards? And when they're talking about airdrops, are you going to get airdropped items and spell cards? Are you going to be able to use those research tokens that you get to help produce items and spells? Are they some way going to be tied in there? If I had to take a guess, that would be my initial guess. Again, this is me wildly speculating, throwing it out here. I haven't really thought about it much, but my first reaction was, this is where the items and spell cards could come from. So again, who knows? But basically harvesting says that when you're producing all of this, it's not constantly being added to your account. It adds up like when you claim SPS, when you have your SPS staking rewards that you're generating, they don't just automatically trickle into your account. You get them all at once when you claim them. Well, when you harvest it, that's when you go in and claim it. Whenever you make any changes that would impact how much your cards are earning, you automatically harvest whatever it is that you have there. So there's going to be a 7-day limit. So you essentially just have to claim your rewards once every 7 days. Okay, claim them once every 7 days. Taxes, yes, there are taxes here, which is how we're going to tie into castles and keeps. There is a 10% tax on all production. Some of that will go to the local castles and keeps. Some of it will be burned. So there's a 10% tax on everything you produce. I mentioned that you can get totem fragments. You have the option, you have the ability to find totem fragments as you are harvesting. So the odds are very low. These are very difficult to find. There's not going to be a lot of them. They will be fairly valuable, and you can use them to get bonuses on your land production. Time crystals, we already talked about. They essentially speed up land. That's the simple, or you speed up your, like I mentioned, if you're clearing land, whatever the case, they reduce the amount of construction time. So those are coming. You can pick up some of those in your starter pack. Castles and keeps. So what is the benefit of owning a castle and a keep? If you have a castle and you have enough production points, you're gonna make sure you're staking enough here. You can get 20% of the total tax income for resources in your region. So if you're getting 20% of a 10% tax, you can get 2% of all of the resource production from the other plots in your land. 990 plots, because it doesn't include the keeps. But it's more passive earning. I mean, you do still have to stake cards. You still have to have enough production points. It does the math on how many production points you need to claim all of that. But you get a percent of everything that goes through your region. Keeps, it's the same way. They get 50% of the income tax for their track. So it's a higher percent, but it's a higher percent of a smaller market. So they get 5% of all of the resource production in their track. So there's a 10% tax, 2% of it goes to the keep owner, 2% to the castle owner, 5% to the keep owner. The remaining is burned. Again, that's assuming that the owners have enough production points. Eventually, in Land 2.0, there will be different buildings that the castles and keeps will have, where they can impact the tax. They can impact a lot of these fees that are going to see pop up here as we come down here. So there's some things that the castle and the keep in your track, in your region, can impact, but none of that is applicable now. So there's also going to be an internal market. So there's going to be a grain DEC pool that's going to lock up some more DEC. If you want to participate in that, each swap has a 10% fee. So it's actually, there's a significant fee to come swap. So 10% fee, transportation and bridging. Everything in the land here is done by region. When you're staking DEC, you can stake it for all of the lands that are in the same region. Okay? If you want to take it out of a region, if a player owns plots in different regions and they want to transfer grain from one of their plots to another plot, there is a 12.5% fee to transfer between regions. So it is going, if you have land, it is going to be best to claim it all in the same region. It's going to be significantly easier to manage land and cheaper to manage land in the same region. So you can also send it to Hive Engine. There's a 15% fee. So there are some significant fees here, and some of these fees can be changed or can be impacted by castles and keeps down the line, but right now those are all flat fees. Then we have our first prefix titles. The titles we currently have are after the name. There will be titles that are prefixes that will be before the name. They can be earned by meeting some of these, and they will give RP boost in-game. In-game, like when I say in-game, I'm talking about playing the traditional ranked battles. So if you have 5 plots, you can get a 5% boost. If you got a castle, you get a 25% boost. If you have 5 Rooney working land, you get a 15% RP boost. If you are a mega whale, you can get some massive boost here. But these are the first prefix titles that we see. Those are going to be pretty cool. And then one question a lot of people ask, how can you rent for this? Are you going to be able to rent? The idea is that yes, you will be, but this actually will not be in the initial phase 1.5. It will come eventually though. So you are going to be able to, a couple of things here that are huge. You'll be able to rent cards to put on your land. If so, you have to pay the rental fee for the 3 days while they're on cooldown. unless the owner cancels on you. And then you're actually going to be able to rent the staked DEC. And that's significant because DEC is a stable coin, okay? And that's going to give, if you're renting that out particularly, that's going to give you an earning. That's going to give you a way to earn by holding a stable token. And I think that is pretty cool. But a lot of people are going to need a lot of DEC staked to lands. So will there be a market to, instead of buying that, to go rent that? And if so, what kind of returns are we looking at there? I'm very interested to look at that, because getting passive income from holding a stable token, I like that. I like that a lot. Anyways, there we go. We went through the white paper. If you want to go look at some of the calculation, there's a lot more. I kind of went over the basics of it, and it took forever, right? The 30-minute video, and I just went over the top basics of land. This is gonna be fun, guys. I was trying to do this video in like 20 minutes. I did not succeed. But wow, there is a ton to process here. I don't know what cards I want to get for lands. That's one of the big things. Which cards do I want to go get for lands? There is absolutely a lot to process here. The biggest thing is this is economy changing. This is absolutely economy changing. The game is not gonna be the same after this. It's just not. This is when we look back on Splinterlands 5 years from now, we're gonna look at the pre-land era and then the era after land arrives. Okay. This changes the entire economy forever. I think it's going to be for the good. We'll see how everything goes. We'll see how much it's going to cost a lot to operate land. How much are people going to be willing to spend to operate this land when we know you can get SPS rewards, which we kind of know the value of, but a lot of this is unknown rewards, and to improve your research, we don't know what their reward is. A lot of this is unknown rewards. How much are people going to be willing to stake or burn for a lot of unknown rewards? It's going to be very, very interesting to see. But I think this is going to go very well. Overall, I think this is all pretty well laid out. A little disappointed that there's no boost for summoners, but honestly, that's about the only complaint I have right now. So we'll see. I'm curious to talk about this quite a bit. We're gonna have some streams coming up on next week. We've got the new promo card coming out. On Tuesday, we have the beta test for Tower Defense. So I'm gonna be doing some streams there. Make sure you guys stop by some of these streams. I can't wait to talk about land during some of them as well. There is so much here. This is amazing. I'm hyped up. I want it now. It's still a couple months away. 3 months or so. I want it right now. Hurry up and get here. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this. You guys are awesome. Have a great evening.